Wow. It's September 10th. Historically, I'd say this is it's pretty much the end of fire season back in the day. Usually, right about now, like for the first 15 years of my career, the second week of September or so, like unless there was winds, that was it. Fire season's over. So that's a nice feeling. I mean, now that we know now that you can have big winds in October and all bets are off. But for now, we got a little respite. None of the fires in Northern California are really doing much of anything. Or, I mean, none of the fires anywhere in the state right now are doing much. So I was realizing that I know that, but other people might not know that. So that's the purpose of tonight's live stream, is to say that I don't think there's much going on. Did a little look around the intel. Things are pretty calm. And so that's my report. I want to talk a little bit about interview that I did yesterday. I haven't had time to post yet. But talked to the guy named Franklin Otis Carroll. And Frank and I have been kind of at each other's throats on the social media for 4 years. Pretty low-key throat throttling, but I mean, we've definitely kind of gone back and forth, arguing about fire policy and putting every fire out and letting fires burn, and we've never really had a good conversation. We've just kind of like responded to each other's proclamations on Facebook, and it wouldn't say it's been a very productive relationship. Anyway, Frank, he reached out to me a couple weeks ago. He's like, I'm not. I think you think maybe that I'm a crazy. So he said something that caught my eye, and he said, "Hey, I want to come on the lookout and talk to you." So yesterday we talked for an hour and a half, and I wish we would have talked like 4 years ago, because it would have saved a lot of just kind of wasted ink on Facebook, because we have a lot in common in what we think. And so had a great conversation with Frank. I'm going to put that up. I'll try to get that up this evening. And it was just a good reminder that oftentimes, we agree on 90% of way things should go, and then we argue about, these things, and we kind of let things build up and be uncivil. So had a great time talking to Frank. Frank, turns out, has had a really interesting career, starting in fire and then as a lawyer. And so he's got a unique perspective on the Forest Service, on planning, on the place for planning. He's one of those people that feels like he wasted 30 years of his career writing plans that didn't work out, or that never really helped the forest be healthier. Anyway, Frank and I still probably disagree on lots of stuff, but I think it's worth watching. And, it's just a reminder that the more time we can spend talking to people in person, going out in the woods, hopefully, and the less time we can spend on Facebook, the better. Sounds like a pretty gnarly day out there in the world of politics. What with Charlie Kirk getting assassinated in Utah, obviously political violence has no place. And on top of that, I think I would say that political violence is happening every day. Deporting people, tearing them away from their families. That's political violence. The guys that come around to my shop and haul away the scrap, haul it back to Oakland, kind of fill this niche. They're not coming around anymore. And, if you can't go to work because you're afraid that you're going to get kidnapped on the way there, that's political violence. So I think, it's interesting that oftentimes we only see people denounce political violence when it's happening to well-connected white people. That's interesting. Interesting to me. So yeah, political violence has no place. Political violence has no place. Supporting genocidal governments in Israel, that's political violence. And but that hasn't been a top story either. So that's all I got to say. I'm sorry that Charlie Kirk got assassinated. I don't want anyone to get assassinated. I would like to see us broaden our discussion about what constitutes political violence in this country. All right. So we're going to flip over to YouTube and watch my followers either go up or go down. I guess instead of that, we can go over and look at the weather. I'm just going to talk about the weather. Like good civilized people. All right. So it's pretty cool out here. 70s, 60s, Northern California. And one thing you can feel out there is it's moist, right? It's like you see all across, Chester is 87% humidity, Chico's 54, Cottonwood's 95. So that's the story in Northern California is we've got moisture finally in the atmosphere. Some places here are 100%. Some places are getting some good rain. And so what that means is we're moving quickly into conditions that are conducive for the use of prescribed fire on the landscape to improve our fire survival situation. So that's what we're going to be covering now for a while. Probably going to not be doing the daily live streams unless there's stuff going on that requires it, because it's also craft fair season. And so got to make a bunch of stuff. But I really enjoyed doing this talk with Frank, and that's kind of where we want to go. I feel like in this time of craziness in the world, that like let's just talk to each other. Let's not let it get to the point where we feel like we got to kill each other because we disagree, and that let's take some time to be human. This is looking at the Garnet fire today, looking out over Dinky Creek Basin. Kind of up towards Dinky Mountain. You can see it really burned hot in there, but you can also see that it's just kind of barely smoldering right now. There's a comment, Southern California is supposed to warm back up. There's supposed to be some kind of tropical moisture leading to potential instability, maybe a week out. So things are going to stay dynamic. But I think one point we like to make on here is that just because Southern California is dry and has fire potential, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be lighting Northern California on fire. And so I got an invite from a guy today to go up to Nevada County next week to do a burn, hoping that works out. This is a little bit difficult time of year for the agencies to approve burns, and there's some inertia here, but I feel like we're making great progress in building that trust. So about all we got to say. I'm going to get off here, jump on editing Frank Carroll, and we'll put that up for you, and hope you enjoy it. It's long. It's an hour and a half of us talking about kind of a lot of miscellaneous random politics and law and everything else. But that's policy for you. Policy, man, the people that can survive and make policy are heroes if they can survive, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit in there. I don't want to write legislation. I don't want to sit in hearings. So I think interesting thing that Frank Carroll had to say was, he's like, there's the dog catching the bus problem, where it's easy for the dog to bark at the bus and chase the bus, but what happens if the dog actually catches the bus? And he said he feels like after years of kind of berating the Forest Service for letting fires burn and for not having a lot of accountability with how they use fire for land management, that politically now his movement has traction, and they're kind of like, oh shit, we caught the bus. Like, what now? Like, we actually have the ear of Congress and we have the ear of the administration. It was a lot easier just to chase the bus and bark at the Forest Service than it is to actually like get through the nuts and bolts of like what we actually want to do if we do have power politically right now to change fire policy. So check it out. We talk a lot about the nuance of like national policies on suppression. Like, if there's a policy to put every fire out, like, how do you improve on that? How do you involve locals? I think another interesting thing Frank said was just that the decision makers misunderestimate the level of trauma and anger and sadness out in the West at from people who feel like the feds have burned their towns down. Now, personally, working in suppression, I know that there's a lot of fires that have burned towns down that weren't. It wasn't because the Forest Service was treating the Dixie Fire as a giant prescribed burn. It wasn't because the Forest Service wasn't like letting the Dixie Fire burn to try to achieve resource benefits. But there's this folklore that has been the case, and then you add that to the Forest Service then never apologizing for things like the Bear Fire, and which was a fire that got really big and burned up a town. So check out that interview. I hope we did some justice to this conversation. It's a tough one, and it's going to keep on going, but we got to talk to each other. Anyway, that's about all I got. So we'll play our sponsor ad again here and boogie on down to the editing suite. Someone asked what this song was. It's called Better Times Are Coming, and it's from Epidemic Sounds.